Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's been on the UN's agenda for, well, decades, the dispute over Western Sahara.
Yeah, it's a really complex situation, almost 50 years defined by this deep, frustrating stalemate involving Morocco, the Polisario Front, and a peace process that just seemed perpetually stuck. But, looking at recent reports, legal analyses, geopolitical commentary, it feels like 2024, 2025, this period has become genuinely pivotal. So our mission today is to cut through that historical complexity. We want to understand why the international consensus seems to have gone through this, massive shift recently.
Well, that shift is definitely real. You can see it quite clearly, actually, in the language of the new UN Security Council Resolution 2797, the one from October 2025. We're drawing on historical documents, some legal analysis too, to show you how the global community has, effectively shelved the old way of thinking about this dispute and embraced a completely new framework.
Okay, right. So to really grasp the scale of that change, let's rewind if it gives the quick setup. It was a Spanish colony until 1975, correct?
That's right, until 75. But what happened right then that sort of set the stage for the conflict and this long stalemate we mentioned?
Well, 1975 was the crucial year. The UN had already listed Western Sahara as a non-self-governing territory way back in 1963. And you had the Polisario Front, the Sahrawi nationalist movement, already campaigning for independence. Everyone was kind of expecting a standard decolonization process.
But then there was a major legal ruling, wasn't there? The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, in October 75. Why didn't that ruling sort things out? It seems like it should have.
It should have, theoretically.
Yeah.
The ICJ basically found no ties of territorial sovereignty linking the territory to Morocco or Mauritania, and it explicitly affirmed the Sahrawi right to self-determination. So legally it seemed clear. Pragmatism, or perhaps realpolitik, just steamrolled the legal finding.
Right.
Before the ink was even dry on the ruling, Morocco's King Hassan II organized the Green March in November 75. He sent 350,000 unarmed Moroccan civilians across the border. It was a massive operation to assert Morocco's claim, regardless of the ICJ.
And the UN condemned that. I remember reading that. But it didn't stop Spain, the colonial power, right? They made a secret deal.
Exactly. Spain cut the secret Madrid Accords. As they withdrew, they just handed over administrative control to Morocco and Mauritania. Law was just bypassed by political action, a fait accompli.
And that's what kicked off the war.
That's precisely it. Spain pulls out fully in 76. Polisario proclaims the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, the SADR, and war begins. This conflict eventually led Morocco to build this enormous defensive structure, the berm. It's a 2,700-kilometer sand wall.
Wow, hold on. 2,700 kilometers, that's huge. Longer than the U.S.-Mexico border. It really paints a picture of how entrenched this became. And Morocco still controls most of the territory behind that wall, the part they call their southern provinces.
About 3/4 of it, yes. De facto control. That physical barrier really solidified the stalemate for decades. Then, in 1991, the UN stepped in, brokered a settlement plan. That created a ceasefire and the UN mission, MINURSO, which is still there. The heart of that plan was supposed to be a referendum. The Sahrawi people would choose independence or integration with Morocco.
The infamous referendum, the one that never happened.
Never happened. It's been perpetually stalled since 91, mostly because they could never agree on who was actually eligible to vote. It's incredibly complex.
So MINURSO is basically stuck monitoring a ceasefire that isn't even technically active anymore.
Well, the ceasefire largely held until November 2020. Then Polisario renounced it. Since then, it's been, let's say, low-level hostilities, some sporadic artillery fire, Moroccan drone strikes. So the political path via the referendum was blocked, and the military path kind of reactivated in 2020. This really sets the scene for Morocco pushing its alternative.
Okay, so if the UN's original plan, the vote, was dead in the water, what was this alternative Morocco put forward?
That's their 2007 autonomy proposal. It's been Morocco's official position for a while now. Basically offers the region broad self-governance. They'd have an elected local assembly, a local government managing local affairs.
And this is the crucial part, strictly under Moroccan sovereignty.
Exactly. Rabat keeps control of the core sovereign functions. Defense, foreign policy, religion, everything else could potentially be devolved.
And that proposal didn't get much traction initially, did it? But then, starting late 2020, the diplomatic mood really shifted, especially among Western powers. It felt quite rapid.
It was rapid. And it seems to be sticking. I think the reason it's proving sustainable is its perceived pragmatism. It prioritizes stability over trying to organize this referendum that seemed impossible after 30 years. The big catalyst was the U.S. recognition of Moroccan sovereignty in late 2020. That was part of the Israel-Morocco normalization deal under the Abraham Accords.
And crucially, the Biden administration reviewed it but didn't reverse it.
Right. That continuity sent a strong signal. It cemented the idea that, for Washington at least, the autonomy plan was now the only serious game in town for negotiations.
And then other key allies started to fall in line pretty quickly after that.
They did. Israel made its official recognition in July 2023. Spain, the former colonial power, which is significant, endorsed the autonomy plan back in March 2022. They called it the most serious, realistic, and credible solution. That was a major shift for Madrid.
And France and the UK.
Also explicitly backing the plan. By mid-2025, the UK joined the US and France as the third permanent member of the UN Security Council to explicitly support Moroccan sovereignty over the territory. That's a very powerful consensus among the P3.
What about Africa? Morocco rejoined the African Union after long absence, but the SADR, the Polisario state, is still a member. How's that playing out?
Morocco's definitely making diplomatic inroads there too. They rejoined the AU in 2017 after being out for 33 years, specifically because of the SADR's membership, and the diplomatic landscape is changing. The number of African governments still recognizing the SADR has dropped significantly down to around 22 from a peak of over 40. Plus, Morocco's been encouraging countries to open consulates in their disputed territory in cities like Laayoune or Dakhla. About 22 countries have done that now. It's a way of solidifying facts on the ground diplomatically.
Which brings us right up to the crucial moment, that UN Security Council vote in October 2025. Resolution 2797. You said this really codified the shift. Why was this vote so definitive?
It was definitive partly because of the numbers, but mostly because of who didn't vote against it. It passed with 11 votes in favor, 0 votes against.
0 against? That's significant.
Very. The only abstentions were Russia, China, and Pakistan. Yep. And Algeria, which holds a non-permanent seat and is Polisario's main backer, didn't even participate in the vote. They just weren't there for it. The consensus favoring the new direction was overwhelming.
Okay, let's dig into the language of Resolution 2097 itself. This wasn't just a routine renewal of MINURSO's mandate, was it? What did it actually say about Morocco's autonomy plan?
No, it was far more than routine. It's what legal folks might call a normative turning point. First, the resolution explicitly recognizes, and this is a direct quote, that genuine autonomy under Moroccan sovereignty could constitute the most feasible solution.
Could constitute most feasible? That's quite specific UN language.
It is. And second, perhaps even more powerfully, it designates Morocco's autonomy proposal as the operative basis, and get this, the only basis for future negotiations. The message is crystal clear. If you want to talk seriously about resolving this autonomy plan is your starting point, your only starting point, according to the Council.
Wait a second. If that's the new standard, the only basis, what happened to the referendum, the whole point of the 1991 plan? You mentioned the text.
It's gone. The 2025 text makes no mention of a referendum, no mention of a plebiscite as the way to achieve self-determination. It's just not there anymore.
So the UN has just dropped it after 30 years?
Effectively, yes. Jurists looking at this resolution are interpreting it as a clear shift away from the plebiscite model towards something they're calling functional self-determination.
Okay, functional self-determination. That definitely sounds like UN jargon. Could you translate? What does it mean in practice for the Sahrawi people if they don't get that vote on independence?
Right, let's break it down. In plain English, it means their right to self-determination is now seen as being realized through negotiating meaningful participation within the existing state framework, which is Morocco. It's not about achieving separation anymore, at least not through this UN process. The goalposts have shifted.
So instead of a simple yes-no vote on independence versus integration?
Exactly. It's moved from that binary choice to a political mandate focused on the process of negotiation. The UN's role shifts towards ensuring the integrity of talks about how Sahrawis will govern themselves participate substantially within Morocco. They're monitoring a process, not prepping for a vote. That is a fundamental change.
That really boxes Algeria and the Polisario Front into a corner, legally and diplomatically. Okay, let's talk about those abstentions. Russia, China. But Pakistan is interesting. They're usually seen as a Moroccan ally. Why would they abstain?
Pakistan's abstention was surprising given that close historical relationship with Morocco. Their official statement mentioned sticking to a principled and long-standing position based on older resolutions, and concern that the new text introduced fundamental changes. Superficially, it sounded like defending old principles.
But the analysis suggests something else was going on. It wasn't really about Western Sahara for them.
Not primarily, no. The consensus among analysts is that it was basically realpolitik, a form of diplomatic self-defense related to their own major territorial dispute.
You mean Kashmir?
Precisely. Pakistan consistently demands the implementation of old UN resolutions, calling for a plebiscite, self-determination, for Kashmir. If Pakistan had voted yes for Resolution 2797, which explicitly endorses an autonomy under sovereignty model and ditches the referendum for Western Sahara, well, you can bet India would immediately use that precedent against Pakistan's position on Kashmir.
Ah, okay. So by abstaining, they avoided setting what they'd see as an unwanted precedent that could undermine their own core foreign policy objective.
Exactly. It was a strategic move to protect their narrative on Kashmir. It wasn't really about Morocco or the Sahrawis in that moment.
That's fascinating. It really underscores how these UN votes often reflect calculations far beyond the specific issue on the table. How does this contrast with the main players opposing the resolution, Algeria and Polisario?
Well, they remain completely opposed to the autonomy plan. They continue to insist that the only legitimate path is a referendum that includes the option of full independence. That hasn't changed. Algeria still officially positions itself as just an observer, a concerned neighbor. But Resolution 2797 implicitly, and other diplomatic efforts explicitly, keep pushing for Algeria to be at the table in negotiations alongside Morocco, Polisario, and Mauritania. The pressure is mounting on Algiers to engage directly.
And Morocco, now that they've secured this major diplomatic win with Resolution 2797, what's their next move?
King Mohammed VI called the vote a pivotal moment, which it clearly was for them. He announced that Morocco will now work to update and expand the autonomy proposal. The idea is to flesh it out, make it more detailed, ready for practical implementation. They want to move from the proposal stage to the operational stage, aiming to turn it into a functioning governance system and essentially close this file.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The key takeaway for you, listening, seems to be this. The international community, led by the Security Council, has decisively shifted. They've moved away from the old 1991 referendum model. Instead, they now view autonomy under Moroccan sovereignty as the most viable, the most realistic, and now the UN-sanctioned path forward.
That's the absolute core of it. This resolution effectively reframes the whole issue. It's less a classic decolonization problem now, and more a question of how to negotiate self-governance within an existing state's sovereignty. The focus is on stability, pragmatism, finding a workable political solution. And yes, the legal and diplomatic ground for demanding outright independence through the UN has significantly shrunk for Polisario in Algeria.
And maybe we can leave you with a final thought, something broader to consider. This whole situation, especially looking at why countries like Pakistan voted the way they did, it really highlights a potential trend in global politics.
It does. You see foreign policy decisions becoming perhaps increasingly pragmatic, maybe even transactional, driven by national interests in this more multipolar world. Think about it. Pakistan's vote linked to Kashmir. We also saw reports suggesting Somalia's vote might have been influenced by concerns over Somaliland status, or Guyana's vote potentially reflecting its own border dispute with Venezuela over the Essequibo region. When countries explicitly use or avoid UN resolutions based on how it affects their own territorial disputes or national narratives, it shows that these votes are often less about the specific case like Western Sahara and more about protecting their own position on the global stage. It's a shift away from pure principle towards national interest preservation. Definitely a global trend worth watching.
A fascinating lens through which to view international relations today. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.